I tend to subscribe to the old Chinese theory of there are really just kind of like 5 or 6 stories that we're all retelling in
Sure.
some form or another. You know, we're all standing on the shoulders of people who have told bigger and better versions of the stories we want to tell. But one thing I noticed about your work, and starting with your first novel, Frightening Curves, was you take a genre like a cop, crime novel, and give it a slight twist. You know, in that story, your protagonist, he's a cop, but he's also a psychic, and he has to deal with a wizard. And I know it's not of a similar or the exact same fame, but I know it's something else that writers like Jim Butcher did with
Sure.
his Harry Dresden novels,
Yeah.
where you take genre and you take trope and you find a way to give it a little bit more authenticity by giving it a slight twist. How long did it take you to figure that out, or was that kind of your approach from the very beginning of when you started writing?
I mean, I'm not. It's only now that you say it that I kind of think, oh, actually, that is something that I do a lot, isn't it? I'm not. Yeah,
And
it's
I'm not
not
saying
something
that's
that
a
I
bad
do.
thing, because
No,
obviously
and
it's been successful for you.
I understand that, but it's not something that I do consciously, other than having an idea and thinking, oh, that would be interesting, or having an idea and thinking, oh, that needs something more, and then getting, oh, what if I like the Fuse actually being a good example, which is set on a space station. And what I might the impetus for that was a conversation I had with a friend who is a physicist, and we were talking about space elevators and the idea of having this sort of rotational gravity and all that sort of thing. And that just one thing led to another, and I just thought, oh, I'd really like to set something either on a space elevator or maybe on a floating platform or something, an orbiting platform. But what could it be? It's got to be an interesting story. And the one thing I am conscious of is I love mysteries. Almost all my stories are mysteries in one form or another. They all have something that people are trying to find out the truth of
Mhm.
at their heart. And almost in a flash, I just thought, what if they were cops? What if it was just literally mysteries, but in space? And that was the base for the Fuse, which was then what we went for 24 issues, 4 collected volumes of that. It's been optioned for TV. It's still one of my. I'm very proud of it, but I'm also pleased to say that it went down very well. It's one of my sort of best known works.
Mhm.
Um, and that was not so much a conscious, oh, I'm gonna put two genres together, as I had an idea and I thought, well, what can I inject into that that's unusual and will make it stand out? And that was, as I say, putting the cops into it and combining those two genres. But if you look at other work like, say, Wasteland, that's not really combining two genres. That is post-apocalyptic. Okay, there are some people with psychic powers in it, but that's not unusual for that genre either. So it's not something I do all the time, but I suppose it is something that I have done a fair amount of. Um, it's just because I'm always looking for an interesting angle on a genre. I like genre fiction. I have no problem, no qualms with I'm going to write a crime story or a spy story or a sci-fi story or a fantasy. I have no problem with going into genre, but I am also conscious of the fact that there is so much of it.
Right.
There is so much genre fiction out there that I want to do something that I haven't seen before. I mean, that doesn't mean to say that it's completely unique, but at least I'm not consciously doing something that I've seen before, and also in my own style, in my own voice. So that's how you get something like Umbral, which was a fantasy series that I did with Image, sort of dark fantasy. And partly that came about because Chris Mitten, who co-created Wasteland with me, and I wanted to work together again. We wanted to do something else together again. And I knew that that was a genre that Chris would absolutely crush in terms of artwork. I knew that he'd be great for it. So that was a conscious move. Okay, I'm going to write a dark fantasy because Chris will be great at drawing it. But then when it came to actually figuring out the story, I thought, well, what do I like about fantasies? What haven't I seen before? What would make it fit my style? And that's how you get a story where magic and religion are both outlawed. There has been a cataclysm, but nobody really quite knows what it is. And you have these strange, nightmarish shadow creatures running around imitating real people. And you get a sort of Battlestar Galactica style thing where nobody quite knows who's real and who's one of the Umbral. And the protagonist is a teenage girl. So all of these things are fit my sensibilities, if you like, and fit my kind of style. I was like, these are things I know I can write, that I can write well, that I'll have fun writing. Umbra was actually planned for like 7 volumes. Unfortunately, we only got to do 2 because, much as Chris and I enjoyed making it, we just didn't have that many readers.
Mm.
The ones we had really liked it, but we just couldn't reach enough of them, unfortunately. But
As is
again,
the way.
I mean, that's just, that's
And
comics
that's
for you.
across the board in all media. If you don't pull enough
Yeah,
viewers for your TV show, it doesn't stick.
exactly. Yeah. But I, again, very proud of the 2 volumes that we put out there and the work we did, because it was kind of unique. And I still don't think anybody's quite done anything like it. Now, that's probably quite sensible, given that we didn't sell that many. It's probably not a good idea to do something too close to it, but still, I am proud of the fact that we made something, as I say, that was quite unique in the end. So yeah, I don't really know how to answer that question, to be honest, because it's the conscious part of it for me, as I say, is trying to find a way to tell a story that interests me, that will keep my interest, that I can write in my voice and my style. And as I say, that I haven't seen before, all of which sometimes are high bars. There are many, many stories that I've had, and I'm sure I'm not alone in this. There are many creators who would say this, I'm sure, but I've had many ideas for stories where I think, oh, that's an idea. But then as soon as I start working around it and thinking about it, I can't quite make it. I can't quite go over those bars. That's a terrible, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
my metaphor brain is dead. I can't sort of cross those barriers. I get stuck on one or more of them, trying to make it unique and make it something that fits my own sensibilities, and that I would want to read. Yeah, that's ultimately everything that I make is something that I would want to read or watch or listen to even. And if I can't do that, then I won't do it. It will continue to sit until I can figure out a way to make it meet those qualifications.
How long did it take you to really find your voice in a way that you felt comfortable enough with it, where writing more short stories or going through comics or however, what point in your trajectory did you get to the realization of, okay, this is what my voice is. This is how my creations are going to be. This is how they're going to sound. This is how they're going to emanate from me.
I mean, you could argue that I still haven't reached that that point really. I'm always wary of trying to analyze my own voice too much, partly because it's very self-deceptive. I'm very fond of, I think it was Johnny Cash, who said that style is just a question of what you don't play. And I thought that was a really good way of putting it.
Yeah.
It's it's not about what you do; it's about what you don't do. And I suppose I could say it was about 10 years of being a professional writer. About 10 years into being a published professional writer, I went, oh, okay, I'm starting to figure out this is the kind of story I like to tell. This is how I like to do it, and so on. But I know that since then, I have reread work from before that time and gone, oh, okay, no, I can see myself in this actually. This, I don't, it sometimes feels like I haven't progressed at all. I read old stuff, and while I can sort of see clumsy bits in it and think, oh, I'd write that differently, what have you, but there is enough in there that I'm like, oh no, that's me. I can tell that's me immediately. So like I say, that's what I mean about it being self-deceptive. I might like to think that I've figured out what my voice is, but I'm not sure I have, because I thought I had 10 years ago, and then I read older work and thought, oh no, I was always like that.
Right. Do you think writers, especially when they're starting out, do you think they try too hard to conform their voice to what they think readers want or what publishers want? Or because it seems like, and I only say this because I know I've had this problem when I'm going through and working on my own projects, of when I get to it, I'll be looking over a piece that I've worked on and gone, okay, there's bits here that I like, but I can also tell when I'm I know I've been reading Neil Gaiman this week because my
Oh, I see.
my
Yeah.
lyricism kind of goes off that way. Or I've been reading a Raymond Chandler novel because things are more precise. Or I've been reading Ian Fleming, you know, where that those influences kind of shape what you think you need to sound like rather than cultivating your own voice.
So I think there are several branches to answer this. Firstly, we're all products of all our influences, and I
Right.
don't have a problem with that. I am quite happy to admit that I am a product of all my influences, and that's fine because even another person who had read all the same things that I had and seen all the same movies I have and what have you, still would write different stuff because they're not me. That I don't have a problem with at all. I personally never tried to sound like anybody else when I was writing. In fact, if anything, I deliberately went the other way. I deliberately, tried not to sound like other people and was very determined to write in my own voice. If you read Frightening Curves, that is me. That is how I thought and wrote and spoke at that time. Um, but, and this comes back to self-deception again, I have the same issue, especially these days, when I'm writing uh, after having read, say a writer that I really like. For example, I know that when I wrote the first draft of the Tempest Project, I had recently finished reading William Gibson's Peripheral.
Mm.
And I felt as I was writing it, I was like, oh, God, I can feel the Gibsonisms coming out of me,
Oh yeah.
through my fingers. But here's the funny thing: when I read it back, they weren't there, or at least nowhere near as many of them as I had thought there were.
Okay.
Now, is that just because my style actually does subconsciously imitate Gibson a little bit? Maybe that's true. I don't know. Or is it just because I thought I was being influenced because I had just read the book and I loved it and I'm a big fan of Gibson? So did I just think it, but actually my voice came through and rejected those too overt influences? As I say, writers are terrible judges of our own voice.
Oh yes.
I
Oh
think.
yes.
I'm
terrible at it.
Well, and I could say, quite often I'll read something and I'll just go, well, I don't feel like I have an authorial voice. It's just because it's just me,
Right. Hey guys, Devin here. Thanks for watching. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and check out the links below for more great original content. Talk to you soon. Bye.